New Buddha Way Dharma Talks. Geoff Hunt presents a talk on some aspect of the Buddha's teaching.
Hello everyone. You may remember last week we started on a more practical note and we went through the body scan, which was being aware of each part of the body as you move through the body slowly. You're not looking at your body, you are being aware of it, you're attending to it at several places as you pass through the body. And if you encounter any tension or stress, you let go of that in your mind. And by the end of this process, you should feel a bit more relaxed and you can move into the deeper side of meditation. But I think that the body scan actually is very effective. It's a form of mindfulness of body and is attending to the whole body. It's very useful to do it quite a lot of the time. You could do it while you're waiting for the bus. But if you're going to sit and do meditation for a long period, it's good to start with the body scan. So it becomes a kind of routine. And then from the body scan, you can move on. So the next part I want to talk to you about, which we've discussed before, is breathing. And breathing as an object of meditation. If we do a body scan, we can't help noticing breathing and the motion of the lungs and the belly. It'll all be part of observing the whole structure of the body and activity of the body. And now we are going to zoom in on the breathing. And the first thing we notice about the breathing is that it doesn't care a damn about us. We don't need to be conscious of it. It just goes on. So we're going to do something novel, although it should be actually stark, raving obvious. Because the very first thing we do when we're born is take an in-breath. And the midwife is very concerned if there's no in-breath. That is your first breath. However long you live, there will be thousands of other in-breaths and out-breaths up until the day you leave this world, which will happen to all of us. There will be a last breath. So the breath is always there. How very convenient from a meditation point of view. We've got an object of meditation we carry around with us. So strictly speaking, we don't need a bell or a statue or anything else. We've got our breathing to use as an object. I'll just mention here that at this stage in development, we do talk of objects of meditation. In the higher level of meditation, paradoxically, we're doing the opposite. We're trying to let go of seeing things in terms of objects outside of ourselves. We'll come back to that when it's appropriate to do it. So we're taking things a step at a time. And that's how I've approached things in the book, which you now have, which you can use as a work of reference or to work through very slowly over a couple of years, is the approach we are using is not the sort of approach you might find, for example, in Zen, which has the idea of transmission from someone else who is enlightened, and enlightenment is a kind of an event, a flash. That's all very well, but we are adopting the approaches of early Buddhism. What we mean by that is the earliest teachings of the Buddha that we actually have. Therefore, we refer to them as the Theravada, and it's the Theravada that I am adopting. It's not to cast aspersions on anyone else, but it is a gradual, staged approach. So sit back and enjoy the rest of your life because it's going to be around for a while. Okay, Theravada. So we now move from the body scan. Let's say we've just done that. We're feeling a bit more relaxed. We'll be a bit more aware of the body. Now we're going to focus in on the breathing. So we're going to do this together. So I'm going to give you some short instructions. Then you close your eyes and follow the instructions, and then we move on to the next part. So what do we take as our object? Well, I've just said our object is the motion of the breathing itself. Right. And the result of this is that, first of all, you're developing your awareness of this thing you regard as yourself. The other is that you're becoming calmer or more tranquil. That is why this is sometimes called tranquility meditation or calm meditation, or it has the name of its own, shamatha, as a method of meditation. Some people don't go beyond that; they stay with that. Okay, that's fine. But the idea of it in the longer term is that you're settling the mind. You're clearing a space in it in which you can now observe the doings of the mind more closely. So let's begin our practice. Now, we could take 3 different approaches in terms of our object of breathing. We could just watch the breath as it's there without trying to control it or anything. It's just there, so we just be aware of it. Second is to use your belly as the object of meditation. As you breathe, the belly is actually moving slightly in and out. You may not have noticed it, but we'll try that in a minute. And some people, for example, in Myanmar, they're quite keen on following the method of following the belly motion. And thirdly, taking the nostrils, or the sensation of breath around the nostrils as you breathe, as your object of meditation. So let's do this one at a time. First of all, it's important that, I always say this, but I realize that it's difficult in the modern world to actually follow this, but we have to be persistent. We have to do it regularly. So doing this whenever you feel a bit anxious or panicky or having a bad time, we have to expand it into just doing it as a routine, so that we're always, so if we want to try and fixate it in our daily lives, then we need to establish a daily routine of, say, 10 minutes at least, 15, 20 would be better. So it's a good thing to do in the morning when you get up. It's part of your ablutions, whatever you do when you get up. Why not spend 10 minutes with breathing meditation? And then it gradually becomes a routine. And you miss it if you don't do it. And you realize that if you do it well and with seriousness, it can set you up for the rest of the day. That you're maybe a little less reactive to what other people are saying and doing or what's happening around you. And you generally feel a kind of serenity. I think that's the right word. Sometimes it is actually called serene meditation. Serenity is such a lovely word. Serenity, how do you describe what serenity is? Anyway, you can have a touch of serenity if you do this well and you do it regularly. So you establish your daily routine, focusing on your breathing with your eyes closed, watching each in-breath and each out-breath. So now you're watching the wave-like motion of your own breath. It is a wave-like motion. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And we don't need a first-person pronoun here. It's not something that I do. It is something that is being done to me, if you like. That sounds very strange, doesn't it? The breathing just goes on, even when I'm not thinking about it at all. I could spend the whole day, I could spend the whole week. I could probably spend my whole life without ever noticing it. And it is absolutely vital to my continuing life. Only got to go, fairly short time, and without it, I will leave this world. So the thing to do here is to establish your awareness of the breath and follow. You don't have to control it, right? You're not trying to control it. You're just watching what it does by itself. Secondly, you're watching it as an in-out motion, in, out, in, out, in, out. And that becomes important later on, because when we get a bit deeper into this, we notice that in the breathing, there is actually, in a way, the whole of the teaching. The whole of the teaching is that the world isn't a place of things. It's a place of waves and processes. That includes me, okay, amongst other things. And we also notice attaching and letting go. When I breathe out, there's nothing I want more than to breathe in. And that becomes urgent, becomes panicky if I can't breathe in. So as I breathe out, I am moving towards the need to breathe in, something I crave for. I crave for the breath. The Buddhist, teaching is probably the most fundamental concept of all is craving, and the root of all our problems. And yet the craving is built into our lungs. When I breathe out, very soon, if I hold it, I will start craving breath. There can be nothing more that I want than to breathe. It is so fundamental. When I've breathed in, now another problem starts. You see, the dialectic of problematic life. Now I breathed in, I'm using up the oxygen, and now there's nothing more I want than to breathe out. Wonderful, isn't it? I crave breathing in, I crave breathing out, I crave breathing in. This hundreds of thousands of times throughout my life. Until there's no more craving, there's just a rest from all this. Okay? We'll come on to that topic another day. Okay, so first of all, we establish the routine. We have an understanding of what we're doing. We're just watching the in-breath, watching the out-breath as they go on by themselves. You are not breathing. The breathing is breathing you. It sounds weird, but it's not something you're deciding to do or choosing to do. It's something that your body chooses for you. Your body does it. So you are being breathed by your lungs, if you like. So don't try to control it. Don't try to breathe. Don't think that, right, I'm doing meditation now, there must be some fancy way of breathing. What was that Geoff was talking about? There is no fancy breathing. It's just, you're just following what you would normally do. But the difference is you're aware of it. And awareness is also very important in the Buddhist teaching. So we're trying to develop our awareness and figure out how what our mind actually does with this awareness, and what it can do with this awareness. Take us to higher reaches of the teaching. So your eyes are closed. You're watching each in-breath and out-breath as they get on with their motion. Now, we all know that you probably won't go 2 seconds before a little friendly thought pops up, or maybe a little nasty thought pops up, or one that's fairly neutral, like, oh gosh, I forgot to wash the dishes this morning. Which would be a pretty serious matter in my household, I'll tell you. So you're watching that motion, and in watching it, you will find that your mind is trying to interfere. It's trying to go off because it's wild. Remember, this stage is a wild mind. It will go anywhere, and it does seem to do what it wants. You don't have to think. It thinks for you. Right, but now we want to notice what we're thinking. We're not without going into it in any elaboration. Just notice really that your mind has wandered and come back to the breathing every time. If it takes 100 times, it doesn't matter. At the beginning, it will seem difficult. But as you get into this, you will see that the gaps between the thoughts become bigger and bigger, until a magic point comes where you can actually rest without thinking. Now, this takes some time to get there. All you're trying to achieve at the beginning is subduing the thinking, not subduing in a sense of control, but letting the thinking go down, move down, calm down, move off, right? You see, you're creating more and more space in which All that is your in-breath and your out-breath. And when that happens, a sort of general question arises about who is doing this, what am I, what could this be, who is breathing? These sort of wider questions start to emerge, which we will take advantage of later on. So that's the first kind of breathing. We've done the body scan, then we do this. We watch the breathing itself. You're not breathing in any special way. You're just watching the breathing. And you try to keep your mind on the breathing. It'll wander off on a thought or a memory or something. Let that go as quick as you can, as soon as you spot it, and go back to the breathing. Do that. Now be persistent. If you were learning to speak Spanish or to play golf, you'd have to be pretty persistent to get there. And if you want to play the violin, well, give yourself several years. So this is worthwhile because this is about your life. It's about you. It's about your life and the happiness in your life and understanding in your life. So it must be worth doing, mustn't it? Maybe you start to get a different perspective on all the other things you do in life. How important are they really? What could be more important than my just sitting in peace, being aware of awareness, being aware of awareness? Right, 2, belly motion. Now, some people find it works more for them by watching the belly. Now, don't be shy about your belly. Let it flop out if it wants to. Don't put the belt on too tight. But as you breathe, the belly will be in motion gradually, slightly, because the diaphragm, which is contracting and pulling in the air, is affecting the belly. The diaphragm runs right across the middle here, and then you watch your belly. Right. So some people find it's more effective for them just to watch the belly going in and out, going up and down. Now, that doesn't really work very well for me, but that's me. We're all slightly different. So you might want to try that. Or you could try all of them and see which is more effective in producing calmness and creating a space in which you can spot those pesky little thoughts arising. So after some weeks, when watching the breathing, also engage the belly, so that the breath comes in, then as the belly moves out. As the breath comes in, the belly moves out. As the breath goes out, the belly is pulled in. Now again, don't try to control it. Just be aware of what is naturally there anyway. But some people say, oh, it's too subtle. I can't really see or feel the belly doing that. Other people say, oh, that's really a breakthrough for me because I've been trying to do it with my lungs. Now I'm doing it with my belly. It's so much better. So something you can try and see how you get on with it. Thirdly, there is a method. I don't know where it originated, but the idea is that you follow the sensations of breath or air on your nostrils. So again, to do this initially, you have to do it rather artificially, in a controlling way, to be aware of it. Right. If you've got a cold or something, it's not going to work. Right. So on the other hand, if your nostrils are clear, it does work very well for some people. Again, it's worth a try. Okay. So nostrils is an alternative to the belly breathing method. And as you breathe in, you follow the sensation of air in contact with the nostrils. Now, of these 3 approaches, which is most effective in bringing about calmness and space in your mind? Only you know. I don't know. I know what the alternatives are, but I don't know what works for you. Only you know what works for you, and you will only know that by actually doing it and doing it in a fairly persistent way. Now, this takes us on to what will be the next talk, which will be next week, will be what is the point of this? Now, many people these days are happy because they say, oh, I found a method of calming myself. Life is stressful. Life is full of tension, full of conflict, full of misunderstanding, full of ego. every day is tiring. I want to rest. And by doing this, I can rest. So I call this the therapeutic approach. That is, that there's something that I want. I want to be calm. So I have an objective. So I will then I will use these methods. So there's a clear objective. There's something that I want, and I want calmness, and I'm going to get it by doing this. Now, if you go further in the Buddha's teaching, you see that's a pretty good start, but it doesn't take you very far. Except, of course, that you might be feeling calmer than you were. But the Buddha is also bringing other things into your life, compassion for other people and other creatures, seeing all living things differently, feeling, not feeling, but having wisdom in the way you look at things, the way you decide about things. All of that can come along as well. But this is a slow process, but a worthwhile process. Because look at it this way, what could be more important to you as an individual than you're feeling calm, wise, good to people, feeling good about yourself? Because you come this way once, as far as we know. Or if you come back here again, well, it'll be in a different form, probably. So, in a way, that is what we all want. We all want to be happy. But you see, we also want maybe to be famous, or to have money, or have power. But how do those blend with this? I want to be happy. So now I want to be happy by being famous. Doesn't work that way. Famous people are not happier. They're very often suicidal. So, that can't be the solution. Solution is to know yourself. Okay, so we'll move on slightly. I'm only going to mention it now to something called vipassana. So people say that the two forms of meditation, one is shamatha, or this calming meditation. The other is vipassana, which is more about understanding the motions of your own mind. But we've also got a therapeutic form. So vipassana, mindfulness of breathing. What is the result of it? The result of it gradually is that one notices the change in all things. All things are constantly changing. If you just watch your breath, you will see the truth of that. You can't stop breathing. It has no permanence. There's no such thing as stopped breathing. If you stop breathing, then you're not alive anymore. So change, we call it impermanence or anicca. Change. Everything is in process. This is really fascinating. It really opens a whole new way of looking at things. Because not only are things changing, but you are the change. You are the change that is going on. It is not as though I am cocooned in here, isolated, and everything out there is changing. No. All the change that's going on, I am embedded in that change. I am part and parcel of that change. I am changing. It's very important to start to see that. You start to see that through what we now call vipassana, which is taking advantage of of the calm and serenity that we have to observe more closely and at greater length the way the mind works. And the first thing you notice is that it's constantly in motion. And its motion is connected with all the motion going on around it, motion or commotion going on around it. But it wants things to stop. And it thinks, if only they would stop, then I could be happy, I could take a rest. Well, you can calm things down, but you can't stop them. But you can take a different attitude to them and see that that is the nature of things. No point in crying about it. That is the nature of things. It's like looking at a river and wishing that all the waves would go away. They're not going to go away. That is the river. So life is life. Life is like what it is. But you can be wiser about it, and you can find serenity within it, despite or even because of the impermanence and change. So by starting with breathing meditation, we can move on to seeing into what is arising in our mind, our states of mind, the contents of our mind. We become familiar with the way our mind works until one day we think, well, what is this mind that's examining mind? This is getting a little paradoxical, isn't it? Well, we're getting now into the deeper parts of the Buddha's teaching, which have to do with letting go of mind. But I won't bamboozle you with that right now. So all I'm saying really is that the breathing meditation will have the effect of calming you, feeling more serenity. But that is not in the Buddha's teaching anyway. It's not an end in itself. It is to bring us into contact with the reality of things and feel comfortable about the reality of things, such as the fact that I'm going to die. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to hear about that. And yet it's staring us in the face. Now just imagine how you're going to feel more at ease if you feel okay about that. Maybe the whole way of my looking at it was wrong or unhelpful. And there's so many other things. We're a craving creature. That defines us. In Latin, it would be homo avidus. The craving creature. That's what we are. Always craving something, never happy with what we've got, not wanting what we have got or wanting what we don't have. Okay, so we move into understanding of the mind. First thing is impermanence. Second thing is I'm not so sure what myself is after all. What is this me that I'm so precious about? Is there a permanent me? Question to look into, because there are lots of misleading things there, which lead us into all sorts of difficulties. And then there's, well, I won't go into that. Let's leave it. Let's not throw too much at you, all at once. Now, I just want to finish with a quotation from the Buddha about the importance of breathing. There's a long sutta of his, Anapanasati Sutta, in which he says this: breathing in long, I'm going to have to say he, but he and she, because there are lots of he's in here. So it's he and she. Breathing in long, he discerns that I am breathing in long. See, what he's saying is that I am noticing how I'm breathing, what its texture is like, how it feels, what it is, where I feel it, that I know that I am breathing, or I know that it is breathing me, rather. So breathing in long, like a long breath, I feel that, right? So I am breathing in long. I discern that. I know that. Breathing out long, I discern, or he discerns that I'm breathing out long. Breathing in short, he discerns I'm breathing in short. Or breathing out short, he discerns I am breathing out short. He trains himself with, I will breathe in sensitive to the entire body. Kind of back to the body scan in a way. He trains himself, I will breathe out sensitive to the entire body. He trains himself saying to himself, I will breathe in calmly. I will breathe out calmly. So we're becoming, now this is the key word, is awareness. We're developing awareness of our breathing, and we're developing a point where we can be quite analytic about it. Things that we carry through our entire life that we never noticed. That's amazing, isn't it? How often do you feel the back of your teeth? How often do you feel the tongue in your mouth? How often do you see or feel that you're breathing? We have to wake up. This is the meaning of awakening. I like awakening rather than enlightenment. There's no light mentioned in Buddhist teachings. It's awakening. That I awaken. I'm awakening to my own unique presence. Unique, except that there are 8 billion of us. Right? It's pretty mind-boggling, isn't it? That each individual is at the same time 1/8 billion people who feel or could feel the same way. One can't help feeling that with wider knowledge of that, the world would be a more peaceful and wiser place. Okay, breathing. That's it. I'm going to stop there. But I'm going to, if Lynn doesn't mind, I'm just going to deviate a little bit. 5 minutes of actual breathing. So I want you to close your eyes. Just going to have 5 minutes here, just to bring to life what I've been talking about. Close your eyes. Now, your first in-breath and out-breath, you can do that artificially, control it, so you become aware of what it is, where it is, right? Whether through your mouth or through your nose, it doesn't matter. Right, I've spotted it. I know it's there. Right. Now, I'm going to relax and start breathing. I'm going to start letting it breathe itself. I'm becoming aware. It might be quite subtle. The in-breath, the changeover to out-breath, the changeover to in-breath. It's quite peaceful just to watch that wave motion. So let's do that. I'm going to tinkle the bell, and then I'll tinkle it again when we stop. So follow the in-breath, and when you breathe in, you know that you are breathing in. You're aware of it. Okay, over to Lynn.
New Buddha Way lets go of East and West and starts afresh in the life we have now. For more information, visit www.newbuddhaway.org.